The Thought Habits of Highly Successful People. Introduction. Success has always been a subject of fascination, discussion, and debate. People look at highly successful individuals, entrepreneurs, writers, athletes, scientists, leaders, and wonder what makes them different. Why do some people rise above challenges while others feel stuck? Why do some individuals seem to move forward with clarity and purpose while others repeat the same patterns year after year? For decades, researchers have studied success from many angles: skills, education, opportunity, personality, and environment. But beneath all these factors lies one element that quietly shapes every decision, every action, and every result. That element is thought. How successful people think, interpret situations, make meaning, and train their minds to support their goals instead of working against them. Success begins long before any achievement becomes visible to the world. It begins inside a person's mindset, in the invisible habits of thought that guide behavior day after day. This book is not about luck, talent, or secrets reserved for the elite. It is about the mental patterns that anyone can learn and apply. The habits you will discover in these pages are not reserved for CEOs or world-famous individuals. They are universal tools used by people who understand one truth: your life moves in the direction of your strongest thoughts. Highly successful people are not simply smarter or more capable than others. They cultivate ways of thinking that help them grow, act, and persevere. They have trained their minds to look for solutions instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles, lessons instead of failures. They understand that their inner world shapes their outer world, and therefore they take responsibility for mastering it. Thought habits are powerful because they operate quietly, often without conscious awareness. If your mind is filled with doubt, fear, or limitation, these thoughts influence decisions, which then influence actions, which ultimately build your reality. But if your mind is trained to be resilient, curious, disciplined, and future-focused, your life naturally moves in the direction of improvement and achievement. Your thoughts become the architect of your future. Many people believe success begins with external changes: getting a better job, finding more time, earning more money, or meeting the right people. But highly successful individuals know that outer change is only sustainable when it is rooted in inner transformation. A person who rewires how they think becomes stronger than circumstances. They gain the ability to rise above setbacks, adapt to new situations, and move forward even when progress is slow. This book invites you to explore these internal shifts and understand how to build them into your own life. You will discover how successful people approach problems, how they stay focused in a distracted world, how they manage their emotions, and how they maintain belief in themselves even when the path is uncertain. Each thought habit is a tool that can reshape your perception and actions.
Another important truth is that success is not a moment, it is a process. It is not defined by one achievement, but by a pattern of consistent, deliberate thinking. Successful people do not always feel confident, motivated, or fearless, but they have developed mental habits that guide them even when their emotions fluctuate. They think intentionally rather than reactively. They choose thoughts that move them closer to their goals instead of allowing negativity or impulsiveness to control their direction. This skill is not innate. It is learned through awareness, repetition, and practice. Just as muscles grow through training, thought habits grow through deliberate mental effort. This introduction also aims to clear one common misconception. Successful thinking is not about being positive all the time. It is not about denying difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it is about constructive thinking, choosing thoughts that help you move forward. Highly successful people face setbacks, doubts, and failures just like everyone else. What sets them apart is how they interpret these experiences. Where some see failure, they see information. Where others see rejection, they see redirection. Where many give up, they learn, adjust, and try again. Their thought habits create emotional stability, clarity of purpose, and an ability to stay committed when others lose motivation. You will also find that successful thinking does not require a perfect background or ideal circumstances. People from difficult environments, limited resources, and challenging personal histories have risen to extraordinary levels by reshaping the way they think. Your past does not determine your future. Your mindset does. The moment you change your thought habits, you begin to change the possibilities of your life. This book is written to give you that power, to help you build a mind that supports your dreams instead of sabotaging them. Each chapter explores a different habit, showing you why it matters, how successful people apply it, and how you can integrate it into your daily routine. Whether you are working on personal development, business, health, creative pursuits, or relationships, these mental frameworks will give you clarity and direction.
As you read, you may notice that many thought habits are simple in theory but transformative in practice. For example, the ability to focus, the willingness to take responsibility, the discipline of long-term thinking, or the habit of learning continuously. These ideas are not new. They've been used for centuries by individuals who achieved mastery in their fields. What makes them powerful is consistency. Highly successful people apply these habits every day, not only when they feel inspired. They build mental discipline the same way they build physical discipline, with repetition and purpose. This book also encourages you to reflect on your own patterns. Throughout your life, you have developed ways of thinking based on experiences, culture, family, and environment. Some of these patterns help you grow, while others quietly limit your potential. Recognizing these patterns is the first step toward transformation. As you move through the chapters, you will be invited to observe your thoughts, challenge unproductive beliefs, and adopt more empowering mental habits. No matter where you're starting from, you can reshape your thinking and redirect your future. Another theme you will discover is that success is deeply connected to self-awareness. Highly successful people know themselves, what motivates them, what distracts them, what strengthens them, and what weakens them. They use this awareness to make better decisions and build a lifestyle aligned with their values. Self-awareness allows them to identify harmful thoughts quickly and replace them with productive ones. In contrast, people who lack awareness often repeat the same behaviors without understanding why they feel stuck. Throughout this book, you will learn how to build awareness of your inner patterns and how to guide them intentionally. Finally, this introduction sets the tone for the journey ahead, a journey into the mind of success. Not a life of unrealistic perfection, but a life of mental discipline, clarity, resilience, and purpose. You will learn how to think in ways that create momentum, attract opportunity, and build a stronger version of yourself. You will understand why thought habits matter more than motivation, more than talent, and more than temporary bursts of energy. You will see how your inner dialogue shapes your outer results, and how changing your thoughts can transform your entire life.
This book is an invitation to step into a new way of thinking, one that empowers you, strengthens you, and aligns you with your highest potential. By the time you finish reading, you will not only understand how highly successful people think, but you will also know how to apply these habits to build your own path to success. The journey begins here, with one powerful truth. Change your thoughts, and you change your life. Chapter 1. The Power of Self-Awareness. Self-awareness is the foundation of every thought habit used by highly successful people. It is the starting point of all personal growth, the doorway to change, and the mirror through which individuals see not only who they are, but who they can become. Without self-awareness, a person moves through life reacting to circumstances rather than shaping them. They become influenced by old habits, hidden fears, and unconscious beliefs that guide their decisions without their understanding. But with self-awareness, a person gains the ability to observe their thoughts, question their assumptions, and choose more empowering perspectives. Successful people understand this deeply, and they treat self-awareness as a daily practice rather than a moment of insight. It is not something they stumble upon, it is something they cultivate. Most people believe they know themselves, yet when asked why they behave a certain way, why they get stuck in repetitive patterns, or why they respond emotionally to certain situations, they struggle to answer. This is because true self-awareness is not simply knowing your preferences or personality, it is understanding the invisible forces inside your mind that shape your actions. It involves recognizing your emotional triggers, your habits of thought, your strengths, and the beliefs that either push you forward or hold you back. Highly successful people constantly examine these elements, not because they are obsessive, but because they understand that clarity about oneself leads to clarity about life. They refuse to be strangers to their own minds.
Self-awareness begins with the courage to look inward. Many people avoid introspection because it can be uncomfortable. It requires facing truths about procrastination, fear, insecurity, or limiting beliefs, truths that are easier to ignore than confront. But successful individuals know that the quality of their inner world determines the quality of their outer world. They choose honesty with themselves over comfort, knowing that growth cannot happen in the absence of truth. They observe their thoughts the way a scientist observes data, without judgment, but with curiosity. They understand that thoughts are not commands, they are signals. Some thoughts are useful, others are not, and self-awareness allows them to distinguish the difference. One of the most powerful aspects of self-awareness is the ability to identify limiting beliefs. These beliefs are often formed in childhood or during difficult moments in life. They are conclusions we draw about ourselves or the world, such as, "I'm not good enough," "success is for other people," or "I always fail." These beliefs shape behavior long after the original experience has passed. Many people live according to these beliefs without even knowing they exist. But highly successful people shine a light on these hidden mental barriers. They question them, test them, and ultimately break free from them. Instead of asking, "Can I do this?" they ask, "What belief is stopping me from trying?" This shift in awareness opens doors that once seemed closed. Another essential element of self-awareness is emotional awareness. When people lack emotional awareness, they react impulsively. They become overwhelmed by stress, anger, fear, or disappointment, and allow these emotions to dictate their actions. But successful people learn to observe their emotions without becoming controlled by them. They understand that emotions are temporary states, not permanent truths. When frustration arises, they do not assume something is impossible. They simply recognize that they are worn out or overstimulated. When fear appears, they do not interpret it as a sign to give up. They see it as a natural response to stepping outside their comfort zone. This level of emotional clarity allows them to act based on intention rather than impulse. Self-awareness also includes understanding your strengths. Many people focus heavily on their weaknesses, believing improvement comes only from fixing what is wrong. But successful individuals recognize that greatness often arises from amplifying what is already right. They do not ignore their weaknesses, but they build their lives around their natural abilities, interests, and talents. They know which environments help them thrive, which tasks ignite their passion, and which roles allow them to contribute at the highest level. Instead of wasting years trying to become someone they are not, they invest their energy in becoming the best version of who they already are. This awareness gives them confidence, direction, and momentum. However, awareness of strengths is not enough. Successful people are equally aware of their blind spots. These are areas where perception is limited or distorted, patterns of behavior that others notice but we do not. Blind spots can include impatience, defensiveness, avoiding responsibility, or difficulty listening. Most people protect their ego by denying the existence of blind spots, but successful individuals invite feedback, even when it is uncomfortable. They see feedback not as criticism, but as information that helps them grow. They surround themselves with people who tell them the truth, not only what they want to hear. This humility is part of what makes self-awareness so powerful. It transforms weaknesses into opportunities for improvement. One of the greatest advantages of self-awareness is that it gives a person the ability to break old patterns.
Many people repeat the same struggles year after year because they are unaware of the underlying habit that drives them. They procrastinate without understanding why. They doubt themselves without knowing the origin of the doubt. They pursue goals they don't truly want because they haven't reflected on their values. They sabotage opportunities because they believe deep down that they do not deserve success. But once an individual becomes aware of these unconscious patterns, they gain the power to interrupt them. They can replace automatic reactions with intentional responses. They can reprogram their thought habits to align with their goals. Highly successful people also practice situational awareness, a form of self-awareness that allows them to read the environment around them. They understand how their behavior affects others, how their tone influences communication, and how their attitude impacts results. They observe not only what is happening inside them, but also how they show up in the world. This awareness helps them build stronger relationships, avoid unnecessary conflicts, and make decisions that benefit both themselves and those around them. They do not move through life blindly. They navigate it with mindfulness and intention. Another important dimension of self-awareness is understanding your purpose. Many people feel lost or unfulfilled because they live without clarity about what truly matters to them. They follow routines created by society, family, or culture without asking whether those paths align with their inner values. But successful people take time to ask meaningful questions. What do I want my life to represent? What impact do I want to make? What brings me energy? What drains me? These questions reveal deeper truths that guide long-term decisions. Purpose gives direction to action and meaning to effort. Without awareness of purpose, success feels empty. With it, success becomes fulfilling. Developing self-awareness is not a single event. It is an ongoing practice. Successful individuals often use tools such as journaling, meditation, reflection, mentorship, or quiet time to understand their thoughts and feelings. They intentionally create space to think, review their day, and observe their inner dialogue. They ask themselves what worked, what didn't, and what thoughts influence their behavior. This consistent reflection helps them grow faster, make better decisions, and stay aligned with their goals. It also prevents them from drifting or living on autopilot, which is one of the greatest dangers to personal growth. Self-awareness also empowers people to change their environment intentionally. When you understand yourself, you know which habits support your goals and which temptations weaken your discipline. You begin to design your surroundings, your routine, your friendships, your workspace, your lifestyle, so that they reinforce the person you want to become. Successful individuals understand that environment is stronger than willpower. Instead of relying solely on motivation, they create a structure that supports success. All of this comes from knowing themselves deeply. Another benefit of self-awareness is that it strengthens decision-making. Many people struggle with indecision because they do not know what they truly want or what thoughts influence their choices. But successful individuals make decisions with clarity because they understand their values, their priorities, and their long-term vision. They do not act based on impulse or external pressure. They act based on intentional thought. They know what aligns with their goals and what does not. This clarity saves time, reduces stress, and increases confidence. Finally, self-awareness gives you the power to rewrite your story. Everyone carries a mental narrative about who they are and what they are capable of. Some narratives are empowering, others are limiting. Successful people take control of this narrative. They refuse to let old experiences define their future. They observe the story their mind tells them and choose a better one. They understand that change begins with awareness and that awareness leads to empowerment. A person who knows themselves can transform themselves. In the end, self-awareness is not simply a trait of successful people, it is their greatest advantage. It allows them to think clearly, act intentionally, adapt quickly, and grow continuously. It gives them insight into their inner world and mastery over their emotions. It helps them break old patterns, build new habits, and live with purpose. Self-awareness is the compass that guides them through life, ensuring that their thoughts, actions, and goals stay aligned.
Without it, success becomes accidental and unstable. With it, success becomes a natural outcome of a disciplined and conscious mind. This chapter invites you to begin your own journey of self-awareness, to observe your thoughts without judgment, to question the beliefs that hold you back, to understand your emotions, and to clarify your strengths and purpose. As you do, you'll discover the same truth that highly successful people have already learned. The more you understand yourself, the more power you gain to transform your life.
Chapter 2. Thinking in Possibilities, Not Limitations. One of the most defining differences between highly successful people and those who remain stuck is the way they interpret the limits of their lives. Most people think from a place of restriction. They focus on what they cannot do, what they do not have, and why their goals seem out of reach. Their thoughts revolve around barriers, obstacles, and fears. Without realizing it, they train their minds to detect difficulty rather than opportunity. But highly successful individuals operate in an entirely different mental world. They think in terms of possibilities. They look at the same situation others find discouraging and see potential paths, openings, and solutions. Their thoughts are expansive rather than restrictive. They do not deny that challenges exist, but they refuse to allow challenges to define what is possible. Thinking in possibilities is not about blind optimism or ignoring reality. It is about seeing reality with the full understanding that circumstances can change, skills can grow, knowledge can be gained, and opportunities can be created. Limitations are not permanent structures. They are temporary conditions that can be shifted with effort, creativity, and persistence. Successful people understand this at a deep level. When they face a problem, they do not immediately accept it as unchangeable. Instead, they ask questions that open the mind. What if there is another way? What can I learn from this? How else can I approach this? Who can help me? What resources can I create? These questions expand their thinking rather than shrinking it. The habit of possibilities begins with mindset. When a person believes that growth is possible, their mind becomes flexible and curious. They explore, experiment, and imagine new options. But when a person believes they are limited, their mind becomes closed and defensive. They stop trying before they start. They accept the first obstacle as the final answer. Successful individuals refuse to let limiting beliefs dictate the boundaries of their lives. They continually push against the internal voice that says you can't and replace it with a more empowering voice that says you can figure this out. Possibility thinking is not about knowing the solution immediately. It is about believing that a solution exists and committing to finding it. One of the reasons people fall into limitation-based thinking is because they treat past experiences as predictions of the future. If they failed before, they assume they will fail again. If they felt unprepared in the past, they conclude they are incapable. But successful people interpret the past differently. They see it as a teacher, not a verdict. Every experience provides data that can be used to improve. They do not attach their identity to their past failures. They attach their growth to them. This distinction frees them from the mental prison of past limitations. Instead of saying, I failed, so it's impossible, they say, I failed, so now I know what to adjust. That mindset alone widens the field of possibilities. Another form of limitation-based thinking comes from focusing on what is missing. Many people believe they need perfect conditions before taking action. More money, more experience, more support, more time. They postpone their dreams until the circumstances align. But circumstances rarely align perfectly. Successful thinkers, however, start with what they have and build from there. They do not wait for ideal conditions. They create momentum with whatever tools, resources, or knowledge they currently possess. This ability to begin anywhere is a powerful thought habit. It opens doors that remain closed to those who wait for the right moment. The truth is that opportunity often appears only after action begins. By thinking in possibilities, successful people recognize that small steps can lead to big outcomes. Possibility thinking also requires the courage to dream beyond current realities.
Highly successful people allow their minds to imagine a future that is bigger than their present. They do not shrink their dreams to match their fears. They expand their efforts to match their dreams. Many individuals limit themselves because they think small. They have been conditioned to avoid disappointment by avoiding ambition. But successful thinkers embrace ambition, not as arrogance, but as curiosity and potential. They use imagination as a tool for planning, not as a fantasy. They understand that every achievement in history began as an idea in someone's mind, an idea that others may have once viewed as unrealistic. Thinking in possibilities turns the imagination into a strategic instrument. Another characteristic of possibility thinking is resourcefulness. When most people face a challenge, their first thought is, I don't know how. When successful thinkers face a challenge, their first thought is, I can learn how. This difference alone expands possibilities dramatically. Resourcefulness means believing that knowledge can be gained, skills can be developed, and support can be sought. It means looking beyond one's current abilities and recognizing that abilities are not fixed. They grow with time and practice. Successful people understand that the mind is not a container, but a tool, always capable of development. When you believe you can learn anything you need, the world becomes a place filled with possibilities. Possibility thinking also influences how successful individuals respond to risk. Most people see risk as something to avoid because they think only about what could go wrong. But successful people approach risk with a balanced perspective. They acknowledge the potential downsides, but they also evaluate the potential benefits. They understand that every opportunity carries risk, and that avoiding all risk often means avoiding success. Their thought habit is not reckless, it is strategic. They ask themselves which risks are worth taking based on their vision and values. They see risk not as danger, but as movement, growth, and progress. This mindset helps them make decisions that lead to breakthroughs rather than stagnation. Another important dimension of possibility thinking is the ability to reframe obstacles. When faced with difficulties, most people think, this is a problem. Successful thinkers, however, ask, how can this become an advantage? They look for hidden opportunities inside challenges. A setback might reveal a weakness that needs strengthening. A rejection might redirect them to a better path. A failure might provide insights that success would never have taught. This reframing allows them to stay creative and open-minded, even in difficult moments. Instead of feeling defeated, they become energized by the challenge of finding a new solution. This mental flexibility is one of the greatest strengths of possibility thinkers. The ability to see possibilities is also influenced by one's environment. People who surround themselves with negative or narrow-minded individuals often adopt the same thought patterns. They absorb limitation-based thinking from conversations, attitudes, and expectations. Highly successful people are extremely aware of this influence. They intentionally build environments, friends, mentors, learning communities that expand their thinking instead of restricting it. They seek people who challenge them to grow, not people who confine them to their comfort zone. They understand that possibility thinking thrives in environments of encouragement, support, and shared ambition.
Possibility thinking is also deeply connected to creativity. Creativity is not limited to artistic expression. It is the ability to combine ideas in new ways. Successful people think creatively about solutions, strategies, and obstacles. They do not accept traditional answers simply because they are traditional. They question assumptions, explore alternatives, and look for unconventional options. Creativity expands the boundaries of what is possible. It turns limitations into starting points for innovation. When others see a closed door, successful thinkers examine the wall for another entrance. This creative mindset is responsible for many breakthroughs in business, science, leadership, and personal development. One of the most powerful tools for thinking in possibilities is asking high-quality questions. Questions such as, what else could I try? What resources can I create? What would I do if I weren't afraid? How can this become easier? What strengths can I use here? These questions shift the mind from a state of limitation to one of exploration. Instead of dwelling on what is wrong, they guide the brain to search for solutions. Successful individuals understand that the mind responds to the questions it is given. If you ask limiting questions, you get limiting answers. If you ask expansive questions, you get expansive possibilities. Another aspect of possibility thinking is believing in delayed results. Many people give up too early because they expect instant success. When results do not appear quickly, they assume their goal is impossible. Successful thinkers understand that growth takes time. They see progress not as a straight line, but as a gradual curve. They allow possibilities to unfold through patience, learning, and persistence. Their belief in the future keeps them moving forward even when the present feels challenging. They do not abandon possibilities simply because they take time to develop. Possibility thinking transforms not only action, but identity. When you believe in possibilities, you begin to view yourself as someone capable, adaptable, and worthy of success. You stop defining yourself by your limitations and start defining yourself by your potential. This shift in identity fuels confidence and encourages bolder decisions. It also reduces fear because you learn to trust your ability to figure things out. Successful people do not wait for confidence before taking action. They gain confidence by consistently thinking in possibilities and seeing what they can achieve. In the end, thinking in possibilities is not about ignoring challenges. It is about expanding your perspective until you can see beyond them. It is about recognizing that your future depends more on your mindset than your circumstances. It is about understanding that limits are often mental constructs, not physical barriers. Successful people are not successful because they have more advantages. They are successful because they refuse to let limitations control their thinking. They choose to believe in their capacity to grow, adapt, and succeed. This chapter invites you to embrace the same habit, to catch yourself when your mind drifts toward limitations and gently redirect it toward possibilities, to ask questions that open your mind instead of closing it, to allow your dreams to guide you instead of your fears, to imagine what is possible even when it feels uncertain. As you develop this thought habit, your world will expand. Challenges will become opportunities, obstacles will become puzzles, and your future will grow brighter and more dynamic. Highly successful people have learned that possibility is not something you wait for, it is something you create with your thoughts. And once you learn to think in possibilities, the world opens in ways you never imagined before.
Chapter 4: The Mindset of Growth and Continuous Learning. One of the most powerful thought habits shared by highly successful people is the belief that they can always grow, always improve, and always learn something new. They view the mind not as a fixed container, but as a living instrument, one that strengthens with use, expands with knowledge, and evolves with experience. This mindset, often called the growth mindset, transforms the way successful individuals approach challenges, skills, opportunities, and even failures. It allows them to view life as a continuous journey of development rather than a destination of perfection. They do not aim to be right, they aim to be better. They do not seek comfort, they seek progress. And through this philosophy, they unlock levels of potential that many people never discover within themselves. The foundation of the growth mindset is the understanding that ability is not fixed. Many people believe that intelligence, talent, creativity, or skill are traits you either have or you don't. This belief creates mental limitations that restrict what they attempt and how they respond to challenges. But highly successful individuals know that skills are built through practice and persistence. Intelligence grows with effort. Creativity expands with curiosity. Mastery emerges from repetition and refinement. They do not ask whether they are good enough, they ask how they can become better. This simple shift in thinking opens doors that remain closed to those who view their abilities as permanent.
The mindset of continuous learning also requires curiosity. Successful individuals are deeply curious about the world. They ask questions, explore new ideas, seek understanding, and remain open to different perspectives. Curiosity keeps the mind fresh and flexible. It prevents mental stagnation. It allows individuals to see connections others overlook and opportunities others miss. Curious thinkers do not fear complexity. They lean into it. They do not accept information at face value. They dig deeper. Their curiosity becomes a fuel that energizes their growth and guides their decisions. Continuous learners also understand that learning comes from many sources, not just books or courses, but experiences, relationships, challenges, and even failures. They do not limit their education to formal systems. They observe life itself as a teacher. Every interaction holds a lesson. Every obstacle reveals a weakness to strengthen. Every success shows a strategy worth repeating. This openness to learning from everything and everyone accelerates their growth in ways that traditional education alone cannot provide. To maintain a growth-focused mindset, successful people develop the habit of reflection. Growth does not come only from activity, it comes from understanding the activity. After an important meeting, they reflect, what went well? What can be improved? After a challenge, they ask, what did this teach me? After achieving a milestone, they consider, what allowed the success? What steps must I take next? Reflection transforms experiences into insights. It converts ordinary moments into valuable lessons. Most people rush through life without pausing to reflect, but successful individuals carve out time to think, evaluate, and self-correct. Another core aspect of continuous learning is resilience. When you commit to growth, you inevitably encounter setbacks. You struggle with new skills. You make mistakes. You face criticism. Many people interpret these moments as signs that they are not capable. They retreat into comfort and avoid further challenges. But successful people interpret setbacks differently. They understand that difficulty is part of the learning process. Mistakes are proof of effort, not evidence of inadequacy. Criticism is information, not an attack on identity. This resilience allows them to persist long after others have given up.
One of the most profound expressions of a growth mindset is the willingness to change one's beliefs. People often hold on to beliefs because they're familiar or comforting, even when those beliefs are outdated or limiting. Successful individuals remain open to updating their ideas when presented with new information. They do not cling stubbornly to what they once thought was true. They evolve. They revise. They adapt. This intellectual flexibility gives them an enormous advantage. They are not stuck in old ways of thinking. They constantly refine their understanding of themselves and the world. Continuous learners also take responsibility for their development. They do not wait for teachers to appear, opportunities to arise, or instructions to be given. They seek knowledge proactively. They research. They practice. They experiment. They ask questions. They invest in their personal growth through reading, mentorship, courses, experiences, and daily discipline. They understand that growth requires intention, not chance. By taking ownership of their learning, they create a self-driven engine of progress that propels them forward long after external motivation fades. Another powerful aspect of the growth mindset is seeing potential instead of limitations. A person with a fixed mindset focuses on what they cannot do, on what appears difficult, complex, or out of reach. But successful thinkers look at potential first. They ask what might be possible if they put in the effort. They imagine what they could become with practice. This perspective encourages them to try things that others avoid. It allows them to see opportunities where others see only difficulty. The belief in potential gives them courage to begin and persistence to continue. Continuous learners also understand the value of feedback. Feedback is one of the fastest ways to grow, yet many people fear it because they interpret it as criticism. Successful individuals, however, see feedback as a gift. They welcome it, even when it is difficult to hear. They use it to refine their skills, improve their decisions, and correct their blind spots. Instead of reacting defensively, they respond with openness and gratitude. This ability to receive feedback without ego is one of the strongest predictors of long-term success.
Growth-oriented people also build habits that support learning. They read regularly, they take notes, they seek mentors, they observe role models, they ask thoughtful questions, they practice deliberately. They expose themselves to new environments, ideas, cultures, and challenges. These habits create a lifestyle of continuous improvement. Learning becomes not something they do occasionally, but something they embody daily. Another important characteristic of continuous learners is adaptability. In a world that changes rapidly, adaptability is a survival skill. People who cling to outdated knowledge or resist new ways of doing things quickly fall behind. But successful individuals embrace change. They view it as an opportunity to grow, innovate, and improve. When circumstances shift, they shift with them. When industries evolve, they evolve too. This adaptability allows them to remain relevant, competitive, and resilient. The growth mindset also strengthens confidence. Not false confidence based on ego, but real confidence built through competence. When a person invests time in learning and improving, they naturally begin to trust themselves. They develop the belief that no matter what challenge arises, they can grow into the person who can handle it. This confidence is quiet, steady, and long-lasting. It does not depend on perfection, but on progress. At its core, the mindset of growth and continuous learning is about becoming the best version of yourself. One step, one lesson, one effort at a time. It is about recognizing that you are not limited by your current abilities, knowledge, or circumstances. You are limited only by your willingness to grow. Highly successful people understand this deeply. They dedicate their lives to learning, evolving, and expanding their capabilities. They treat their mind as their greatest asset and invest in it accordingly. This chapter invites you to embrace the same mindset, to shift your thinking from "I can't" to "I can learn how," to stop fearing mistakes and instead see them as stepping stones, to remain curious, open, and humble, to seek knowledge wherever you can find it, to reflect, adapt, and persist. Your future potential is far greater than your past achievements. The more you learn, the more you will realize that growth has no finish line. Success is not the result of knowing everything. It is the result of being willing to learn anything.
Chapter 5: The Discipline of Focused Thinking. If there is one mental habit that silently determines the difference between average results and extraordinary success, it is the ability to focus. In a world overflowing with distractions, noise, and endless alternatives, focus has become a rare skill, and therefore a powerful advantage. Highly successful people understand that their attention is their most valuable currency. What they give attention to grows stronger, gains momentum, and shapes their future. What they neglect weakens, fades, and eventually disappears. Without focus, energy becomes scattered, goals remain unfinished, and potential stays unrealized. With focus, even small efforts produce meaningful results. Focused thinking begins with clarity. Many people struggle to focus not because they lack discipline, but because they lack clarity about what truly matters. Their minds are crowded with competing priorities, multiple goals, countless tasks, and endless distractions. They attempt to do everything, but end up mastering nothing. Highly successful individuals operate differently. They identify what deserves their attention and what does not. They choose a small number of meaningful goals and pour their energy into them consistently. They understand that doing less with full concentration produces far better results than doing more with divided attention. A major obstacle to focus is the modern environment. Digital distractions, social media, messages, apps, notifications constantly compete for attention. Many people allow their thoughts to be fragmented by the pace of external stimulation. They check their phones repeatedly, interrupting their own productivity. They switch from task to task, believing they are multitasking, when in reality, they are reducing the quality of their work. Successful people protect their attention fiercely. They know that multitasking is a myth. The brain can focus deeply on only one thing at a time. Instead of jumping between tasks, they work in deep, uninterrupted sessions where their mind can operate at full power.
Focused thinking also requires the ability to say no. Many people say yes to everything, social commitments, extra responsibilities, unnecessary tasks, because they fear disappointing others or missing out. But this habit destroys focus. Successful individuals are selective with their time. They say no to distractions, even when they are tempting. They say no to opportunities that do not align with their long-term goals. They say no to anything that divides their attention and weakens their effectiveness. They understand that every yes is also a no, to their priorities, to their time, and to their future. Their focus is protected by their boundaries. Another important component of focused thinking is the ability to enter a state of deep concentration. Highly successful people intentionally create environments and routines that support focus. They eliminate distractions before beginning work, they set clear objectives for each session, they choose specific times during the day when their mind is most alert, they work with intensity, then rest strategically. Through practice, they train their brain to enter a deep state of flow, a mental condition where attention becomes effortless, creativity rises, and productivity skyrockets. This state allows them to achieve hours of results in a fraction of the time it takes others. Focused thinking also involves controlling internal distractions, not just external ones. Many people lose focus because their mind is restless, filled with anxiety, stress, or self-doubt. They start a task, but immediately worry about whether they are good enough or what others will think. Their thoughts pull them away from the present moment. Successful individuals learn to quiet this inner noise. They cultivate mental discipline through habits like reflection, journaling, mindfulness, or simply practicing completing one task at a time. They train themselves to be present. When they work fully. When they rest fully. This presence strengthens their ability to focus on demand. One of the greatest enemies of focus is indecision. When a person does not know what they want or what they should do next, their mind becomes scattered. They hesitate, overthink, and waste energy. Highly successful people, however, make decisions efficiently. Their clarity comes from knowing their long-term vision and values. They do not waste focus on trivial choices. They simplify their lives by reducing unnecessary decisions. This frees mental energy for the work that truly matters. The more clarity a person has, the easier it becomes to focus.
Another core aspect of this thought habit is the ability to finish what they start. Many people are great at beginning, but poor at completing. New ideas excite them, but they lose focus halfway. Successful people, however, understand that completion builds confidence, discipline, and momentum. They do not chase the thrill of beginnings, they chase the satisfaction of completion. Their focus is not scattered across dozens of unfinished goals. It is directed at the few that matter most. Focused thinking also deepens creativity. It is a misconception that creativity requires chaos or endless freedom. In reality, creativity flourishes when the mind is fully engaged and undistracted. When you give a problem your full attention, your brain makes deeper connections and sees patterns others overlook. Highly successful individuals use focus to unlock creative potential. They give themselves uninterrupted time to think, innovate, imagine, and explore. Their creativity is not a random spark, it is a disciplined practice. The discipline of focused thinking also creates psychological well-being. When your mind is scattered, your emotions tend to follow. You feel stressed, overwhelmed, and unproductive. But when you focus deeply, you enter a state of clarity and calm. The brain prefers concentration over fragmentation. Deep work feels satisfying because it aligns with how the mind is designed to operate. This mental clarity gives successful people confidence and peace. Ultimately, focused thinking is not simply a skill, It is a lifestyle. It requires conscious decisions, repeated practice, and strong boundaries. It shapes how successful individuals organize their time, environment, energy, and priorities. It determines the quality of their work and the speed of their progress. It protects them from the endless distractions of the world and keeps them aligned with their long-term goals. This chapter invites you to cultivate this same discipline, to identify what truly matters in your life and give it your full attention, to eliminate distractions that weaken your progress, to develop habits that strengthen your ability to concentrate, to build frameworks of clarity, prioritization, and deep work. The more you practice focused thinking, the more your results will multiply.
Success does not belong to those who try to do everything. Success belongs to those who learn to focus on what matters most. Chapter 6. Resilience and Mental Toughness. If there is one mental habit that determines whether a person rises or collapses under the weight of life's challenges, it is resilience. Mental toughness is not the absence of difficulty, it is the strength to continue despite difficulty. It is the ability to endure frustration, failure, rejection, uncertainty, discomfort, and pressure while still moving forward with purpose. Highly successful people do not succeed because their path is easy, they succeed because their mindset is strong. They face the same storms as everyone else, but they are built to withstand them. In a world that constantly tests your resolve, resilience becomes the armor that protects your dreams, and mental toughness becomes the engine that drives you forward. Most people misunderstand resilience. They believe it is about never breaking, never struggling, or always feeling confident. But true resilience is far more human and far more powerful. It is the ability to bend without shattering. It is the willingness to try again after each setback. It is the decision to keep going through doubt, fear, and disappointment. Highly successful people experience uncertainty and emotional struggle like anyone else, but they refuse to let those moments define their future. They treat hardship not as a barrier, but as a teacher. Instead of running from adversity, they learn from it. Instead of seeing failure as a verdict, they see it as an event, temporary, instructive, and ultimately valuable.
Mental toughness begins with accepting that discomfort is part of the journey. Many people avoid challenges because they want growth without pain, progress without difficulty, and success without sacrifice. But this mindset is unrealistic. Every meaningful achievement requires discomfort. Strength grows under pressure. Skills develop through struggle. Confidence is built step by step through facing fears and overcoming obstacles. Highly successful individuals understand this. They do not search for an easy path. They search for a worthwhile one. They embrace the discomfort of growth because they value the person they become through the process. One of the most important elements of resilience is emotional regulation. Life will always present moments that trigger frustration, sadness, disappointment, or fear. A person who lacks emotional control becomes reactive, impulsive, and easily discouraged. But successful people train themselves to manage their emotions rather than be controlled by them. They acknowledge their feelings without allowing those feelings to dictate their decisions. When challenges arise, they pause instead of panicking. They reflect instead of reacting. They respond with intentionality instead of fear. This ability to regulate emotions is a hallmark of mental toughness. Another powerful facet of resilience is adaptability. The world changes constantly. Plans fall apart. Unexpected events disrupt progress. People who cling rigidly to one plan or one outcome often experience turmoil and discouragement. But highly successful individuals adapt quickly. When one path closes, they search for another. When circumstances change, they shift their strategy. When life surprises them, they adjust with flexibility instead of resisting reality. Adaptability keeps them moving even when the path twists. It prevents stagnation and protects them from emotional collapse. Their mindset is not, "This must go my way," but "I will find a way no matter what happens."
Resilience is also built through perspective. When most people face challenges, they see obstacles that threaten their goals.
Successful people view challenges differently. They see them as part of the journey, even essential to the journey. They understand that growth requires resistance, just like muscles require weight to grow stronger. They know that no life of purpose is free from hardship. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" they ask, "What is this teaching me?" This perspective transforms suffering into strength and difficulty into wisdom. It gives every experience meaning and turns obstacles into stepping stones. Mental toughness also involves mastering the art of perseverance. Many people give up not because they cannot achieve their goal, but because they quit too early. When results do not appear quickly, they lose hope. When progress slows, they doubt themselves. When success requires patience, they abandon the effort. Highly successful individuals understand that perseverance is often more important than talent. They keep going when others stop. They push through boredom, fatigue, uncertainty, and setbacks. They believe in the long-term reward even when the short-term results are invisible. Perseverance becomes their competitive edge. Resilience also requires the ability to separate identity from outcome. Many people take failures personally. When a project fails, they feel like they have failed as a person. When they face rejection, they assume they are unworthy. This interpretation destroys self-belief and weakens mental toughness. Successful people view outcomes objectively. A failure does not define them, it informs them. A setback does not diminish their value, it sharpens their strategy. They understand that outcomes are external, while identity is internal. This separation allows them to recover quickly, maintain confidence, and continue striving toward their goals. Another essential component of mental toughness is maintaining faith in the process. Success rarely arrives on schedule. The journey is often longer, harder, and more complex than expected. During these long stretches when results are slow or unclear, most people drift into doubt. But resilient individuals maintain trust, not blind optimism, but grounded confidence in their ability to figure things out over time. They do not demand immediate proof that their efforts are working. They trust that consistent effort eventually produces results. This faith gives them the stamina to continue even when others lose momentum.
Resilience is also strengthened through the people we surround ourselves with. Mental toughness is not built in isolation. Supportive relationships provide strength during difficult times, perspective when the mind becomes cloudy, and encouragement when motivation fades. Highly successful people choose their circle intentionally. They avoid toxic individuals who drain their energy or amplify their fears. They seek people who challenge them, inspire them, and hold them accountable. They understand that resilience grows stronger in an environment of support and weakens in an environment of negativity. One often overlooked aspect of mental toughness is self-compassion. Many people believe that toughness requires harsh self-criticism. They think being hard on themselves will force discipline and improvement. But harshness often destroys resilience rather than builds it. Successful individuals treat themselves with understanding, especially during difficult moments. They speak to themselves with the same encouragement they would offer a friend. This does not make them weak. It gives them emotional stability. Self-compassion allows them to recover faster, learn more effectively, and stay motivated without burning out. Strength is built through support, not self-shame. Resilience is also connected to purpose. A person without purpose crumbles easily because they lack a reason to endure hardship. But when someone has a strong why, they can overcome almost any how. Highly successful individuals draw strength from their purpose. Their dreams, values, and goals give them the energy to persist. Purpose fuels resilience by providing meaning to the struggle. When difficulties appear, purpose whispers, "Keep going. This is part of the journey." Without purpose, obstacles become roadblocks. With purpose, obstacles become temporary challenges on the way to something greater. Mental toughness also involves the willingness to endure temporary discomfort for long-term benefit. Many people choose the comfort of the moment at the expense of their future. They avoid challenges, avoid effort, avoid change, all because comfort feels safe. But successful people understand that comfort is often the enemy of growth.
They willingly embrace discomfort when it brings them closer to their goals. They endure criticism, fatigue, uncertainty, and hard work because they know these experiences shape their character and strengthen their capabilities. They sacrifice short-term ease for long-term strength. One of the most powerful expressions of resilience is the ability to rise after falling. Every successful person has failed, often many times. They have experienced disappointment, loss, rejection, and criticism. But they refuse to stay down. Their failures do not define them. Their recovery does. They rise with more knowledge, more clarity, and more determination. This ability to rise repeatedly is what makes them unstoppable. Failure becomes a stepping stone, not a burial ground.
Ultimately, resilience and mental toughness are not traits you are born with. They are habits you build. They are built through daily decisions, through small moments of courage, through choosing growth over comfort again and again. They are developed each time you push through resistance, each time you take responsibility for your emotions, each time you continue despite uncertainty. This chapter invites you to strengthen your own resilience, to embrace challenges rather than avoid them, to treat discomfort as a sign of growth, to reflect on setbacks instead of taking them personally, to trust the process even when the results are slow, to surround yourself with people who lift you higher, to be patient with yourself as you grow. Mental toughness not only helps you survive difficulties, it empowers you to transform them. And resilience is what allows you not just to continue the journey, but to finish it stronger than you began.
Chapter 7. The Habit of Proactive Action. One of the clearest dividing lines between highly successful people and those who remain stuck is the difference between acting and reacting. Most people live reactively. They respond to events, circumstances, and pressures as they appear. They wait for motivation, for permission, for clarity, or for the right moment before they make a move. Their lives are shaped not by intention, but by reaction. But highly successful individuals live differently. They are proactive. They initiate, they create, they anticipate, and they move forward before the world tells them to. They do not sit and hope for opportunities. They make opportunities. They do not wait for perfect timing. They create momentum through action. Proactive action begins with responsibility. When a person is reactive, they tend to blame external factors, their environment, their background, their resources, or the behavior of others. They see themselves as responders to life, not shapers of it. But successful people take ownership of their direction. They understand that even if they cannot control everything, they can control how they think, act, prepare, and respond. This sense of ownership fuels proactive behavior. It shifts the mindset from what is happening to me to what can I do next. A core trait of proactive individuals is initiative. They do not wait to be told what to do. They identify what needs to be done and begin taking steps toward it. If they want to learn a skill, they don't wait for someone to teach them. They start researching, practicing, or investing time into it. If they see a problem, they look for solutions rather than waiting for someone else to fix it. Initiative is a quiet power. It does not shout or seek attention, but it builds results quickly and consistently. Those who take initiative rise naturally because most people are waiting while only a few are acting.
Proactive thinkers also understand the power of starting small. Many people delay action because they believe their first step must be large, bold, and impressive. Highly successful individuals know that the first step simply needs to begin the journey. They allow themselves to start imperfectly, knowing that small steps create momentum and momentum creates confidence. They do not underestimate the value of tiny, consistent actions. Each step forward, no matter how small, creates progress and signals to the mind that action is the path to mastery. A major barrier to proactive action is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of making the wrong choice. Reactive people allow fear to paralyze them.
They wait until fear goes away before acting, not realizing that action is what reduces fear. Successful individuals feel fear too, but they move anyway. They ask themselves, what could I gain if I try, instead of what could go wrong? This shift in thought transforms hesitation into courage. They know that mistakes can be corrected, but inaction creates regret. They choose the discomfort of action over the safety of stagnation. Proactive behavior also requires foresight. Successful individuals think ahead. They anticipate challenges, opportunities, and needs before they arise. Instead of being surprised by problems, they prepare for them. Instead of waiting for ideal conditions, they create conditions that support their goals. Their ability to think ahead allows them to respond strategically rather than react impulsively. This foresight does not come from predicting the future perfectly. It comes from observing patterns, asking good questions, and learning from past experiences. Another powerful aspect of proactive thinking is energy management. Many people take action only when they feel energetic or inspired, but successful people understand that action creates energy. They organize their time intentionally, aligning their highest priority tasks with their peak energy levels. They eliminate or minimize tasks that drain them. They design routines that fuel productivity. Their productivity is not accidental, it is engineered through conscious choices. By managing their energy, they ensure that proactive action becomes a daily habit, not an occasional effort.
Proactive individuals also master decision-making. Indecision is one of the biggest killers of progress. When you hesitate too long, opportunities disappear. When you fear making the wrong choice, you end up making no choice at all. Successful people know that they will never have perfect information, but they make the best possible decision with what they know, and then adjust if necessary. They act, evaluate, refine, and continue. This willingness to decide quickly and correct course later gives them a massive advantage over those who wait endlessly for certainty. Another distinguishing trait of proactive individuals is consistency. Many people take action only when motivated or inspired, which means their progress is unstable. Successful individuals act consistently, even when they did not feel like it. They build routines that keep them moving. They understand that motivation is unreliable, but discipline is constant. They treat action as a responsibility, not a mood. This consistency compounds over time, transforming small daily actions into extraordinary results. Being proactive also means focusing on what you can control. Many people waste energy worrying about things outside their influence, other people's opinions, unpredictable circumstances, or uncontrollable events. Successful individuals redirect their attention to what they can influence: their behavior, their decisions, their responses, their improvement, and their habits. This focus empowers them to act boldly because they do not waste energy on what they cannot change. Instead of feeling helpless, they feel capable. Instead of waiting, they move. Proactivity is closely connected to creativity. When you take initiative, you are forced to think creatively, finding solutions, imagining possibilities, and discovering new approaches. Reactive people wait for someone else's plan. Proactive people create their own. They are not limited by what already exists. They innovate, experiment, and adapt. This creative freedom leads them to opportunities that remain invisible to those who wait for instruction.
Highly successful individuals also understand that proactive action builds confidence. People often believe that confidence must come before action, but in reality, action creates confidence. When you act consistently, you prove to yourself that you are capable. You build trust in your abilities. You develop momentum. Confidence grows not from thinking about what you can do, but from doing it repeatedly. Proactive action becomes a cycle. Action builds confidence, and confidence inspires further action. Another core part of proactive thinking is accountability. Successful people hold themselves accountable for their progress. They track their actions, measure their results, and evaluate whether they are moving closer to their goals. They do not hide behind excuses or blame. Accountability keeps them disciplined and honest. It allows them to correct mistakes early instead of repeating them. It turns intention into tangible progress.
Proactive people also take advantage of opportunities quickly. Many people wait too long, missing chances because they're overthinking or procrastinating. Successful individuals act before opportunity disappears. Their mindset is start now, improve as you go. They understand that the sooner you begin, the sooner you learn, the sooner you learn, the sooner you improve, and the sooner you improve, the sooner you succeed. They do not wait for the perfect moment. They recognize that the perfect moment is created through action. One of the greatest benefits of a proactive mindset is personal empowerment. When a person realizes that they can take action regardless of circumstances, they stop feeling trapped by life. They regain control. They begin to trust themselves. They understand that while they may not control everything, they can control enough to shape their destiny. This empowerment leads to a sense of freedom and purpose that reactive individuals rarely experience. Ultimately, proactive action transforms potential into reality. Ideas alone do not create success. Action does. Intentions alone do not build a future. Movement does. Planning, dreaming, visualizing, and thinking are important, but without proactive execution, they remain unrealized. Highly successful people bridge the gap between intention and achievement through consistent, decisive action.
This chapter invites you to adopt the same philosophy. To act before you feel ready. To begin even when you feel uncertain. To make progress instead of waiting for perfection. To shape your life through deliberate, intentional movement. Success does not happen to those who wait. Success happens to those who act. Chapter 8. The Habit of Constructive Self-Talk. If the thoughts we think shape our decisions, then the conversations we have with ourselves shape the direction of our entire lives. Self-talk, the constant inner dialogue running inside our mind, is one of the most influential forces behind our success, our confidence, our resilience, and our emotional well-being. Yet most people are unaware of its power. They allow their thoughts to run on autopilot, repeating old fears, insecurities, and limitations that have been learned over time. This unconscious negativity becomes a soundtrack that quietly influences every choice they make. But highly successful people approach self-talk differently. They do not allow their inner voice to weaken them. Instead, they train it, guide it, and use it as a tool to build strength, clarity, and motivation. Constructive self-talk is not about pretending everything is perfect. It is not about lying to yourself or denying reality. It is about choosing thoughts that support growth rather than sabotage it. Many people believe their inner thoughts are beyond their control, but this is not true. While we cannot always stop negative thoughts from appearing, we can choose which thoughts we engage with. Successful people understand that their inner voice is a habit, not a fate. They intentionally cultivate a voice that is encouraging, empowering, and solution-oriented. One of the first steps toward constructive self-talk is awareness. Many individuals speak to themselves more harshly than they would ever speak to another person. They call themselves names, criticize their abilities, and magnify their mistakes. They create a hostile mental environment that drains motivation and confidence. Highly successful people become conscious of these patterns. They listen to their inner dialogue with curiosity, noticing when their thoughts become self-critical. They recognize that negative self-talk is not truth, it is conditioning. Once they become aware of these thoughts, they gain the power to challenge and replace them.
A defining trait of successful thinkers is the ability to separate thoughts from identity. Many people assume that if they think they are incapable, unprepared, or likely to fail, then it must be true. But thoughts are not facts. They're interpretations. They are stories the mind tells based on past experiences, fears, or assumptions. Successful individuals question these stories. When their mind says you can't, they ask, is this a fact or just a fear? When their mind says you will fail, they ask, what evidence supports this thought? By challenging negative thoughts, they weaken their influence and create space for more constructive thinking. Constructive self-talk also involves reframing. Reframing is the skill of taking a negative situation or belief and viewing it from a different, more empowering perspective. For example, instead of thinking, I'm not good at this, a successful thinker reframes it as, I'm still learning this. Instead of thinking, this challenge is too big, they say, this challenge will help me grow stronger. Reframing does not change the reality of the situation, but it changes the meaning we give it, and meaning determines motivation. With constructive reframing, successful individuals transform obstacles into opportunities, mistakes into lessons, and doubts into questions that lead to growth. Another powerful element of self-talk is the language used. Highly successful people choose words intentionally because they understand that words shape emotion and behavior. For example, the difference between I have to and I choose to completely transforms the emotional experience. I have to work on this project feels like pressure. I choose to work on this project feels like empowerment. Similarly, saying this is impossible shuts the mind down, while saying this is difficult but I can figure it out keeps the mind engaged. Successful individuals choose language that opens possibilities rather than closes them.
Constructive self-talk also strengthens emotional resilience. When challenges arise, many people speak to themselves in ways that increase stress. This is too much. I can't handle this. Why does this always happen to me? These thoughts intensify anxiety and weaken problem-solving ability. Successful individuals use self-talk to calm themselves, not panic themselves. They say, I've handled challenges before. I can take this one step at a time. Or, let me focus on what I can control. This internal reassurance helps stabilize their emotions and maintain clarity under pressure. One of the greatest benefits of constructive self-talk is confidence. Confidence is not built from perfect performance. It is built from supportive internal dialogue. When people constantly speak negatively to themselves, they train their mind to doubt their ability. But successful people speak to themselves with encouragement. They remind themselves of their strengths, their progress, and their potential. They encourage themselves the way a supportive coach would encourage an athlete. Even when they make mistakes, their self-talk remains compassionate and solution-oriented. That didn't work, but here's what I can do differently. Confidence grows each time the inner voice becomes a source of strength rather than a source of fear. Constructive self-talk also influences identity. The stories we repeat to ourselves shape the belief we have about who we are. Negative self-talk builds a weak identity. Constructive self-talk builds a strong one. Successful people understand this deeply. They consciously speak from the identity they want to build. I am disciplined, even when discipline is still developing. I am capable of learning, even when they are struggling. I am resilient, even when the situation is hard. Over time, these statements sink into the subconscious, shaping the beliefs that drive behavior. Another important part of constructive self-talk is focusing on solutions instead of problems. When most people face difficulties, their inner dialogue becomes problem-oriented. This is terrible. Everything is going wrong. Why is this happening? Successful people instead ask solution-oriented questions. What can I do about this? Who can help me? What is the next step? These questions shift the mind into a productive state. They encourage creativity, clarity, and action. Constructive self-talk does not deny the problem. It directs the mind towards solutions.
Self-talk also influences perseverance. When people face setbacks, their inner voice often says, maybe this isn't for me, or I'll never get this right. This kind of thinking makes quitting feel reasonable. But successful individuals use self-talk to keep going. They say, this is challenging, but I can improve, or progress takes time, or I'm closer than I think. These thoughts fuel persistence, even when results are slow. Perseverance grows when the inner voice supports the journey instead of attacking it. Another powerful aspect of constructive self-talk is self-compassion.
Many people speak to themselves harshly when they make mistakes, believing this will push them to improve. But excessive self-criticism actually damages motivation and self-esteem. Successful individuals practice compassionate self-talk. They acknowledge mistakes without judgment. They forgive themselves quickly. They encourage themselves to learn and move forward. This self-compassion creates emotional stability and protects mental health. It also strengthens resilience because a person who supports themselves internally is far less likely to give up under pressure. Constructive self-talk also requires consistency. It cannot be practiced only occasionally, especially not only on good days. It must become a daily habit. Successful individuals intentionally shape their inner voice through routines, morning affirmations, journaling, reflection, reading, or mindfulness. They repeat empowering statements until those statements become natural. Their self-talk becomes aligned with their goals, values, and vision. Over time, this consistency rewires their mindset, making positivity and determination their default mode. One of the most transformative elements of constructive self-talk is recognizing that thoughts are choices. Many people believe thoughts simply happen to them, but successful individuals understand that they can choose which thoughts to amplify. They do not give power to thoughts that weaken them. They do not replay old fears. They do not indulge in self-doubt. Instead, they choose thoughts that build strength, confidence, clarity, and purpose. This realization that thoughts can be chosen is one of the most liberating discoveries a person can make.
Ultimately, constructive self-talk is not about ignoring difficulty or pretending everything is positive. It is about guiding the mind in a direction that leads to growth. It is about speaking to yourself in a way that supports your goals, builds your resilience, and strengthens your identity. Highly successful people know that they cannot control everything that happens in their lives, but they can control the voice inside their mind, and that voice determines everything else. This chapter invites you to listen to your inner dialogue with new awareness, to challenge thoughts that weaken you, to speak to yourself with encouragement, not criticism, to use language that empowers you, to choose thoughts that help you grow into your future, not stay trapped in your past. Your inner voice is either your greatest ally or your greatest enemy. Train it well, and it will carry you farther than you ever imagined.
Chapter 9. The Thought Habit of Personal Discipline. Personal discipline is the bridge between intention and achievement. It is the invisible force that turns plans into reality, dreams into results, and potential into progress. While many people rely on motivation, inspiration, or emotion to guide their actions, highly successful people rely on discipline, consistent, intentional effort regardless of how they feel. They understand that success is not built on moments of excitement, but on habits repeated day after day. Personal discipline is not about harshness or punishment. It is about commitment, structure, and self-respect. It is the mental habit that ensures your thoughts align with your actions and your actions align with your goals. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think it requires superhuman willpower or a personality that loves routine. But discipline is not a natural talent. It is a trained mindset. It is developed through small decisions repeated consistently until those decisions become part of who you are. Successful individuals cultivate discipline the way an athlete trains their muscles, gradually, intentionally, and with persistence. They know that discipline is not something you find, it is something you build. At the core of personal discipline is clarity. Many people struggle with discipline because they lack a clear sense of direction. When your goals are vague, your actions become inconsistent. You do not know what to commit to, so you drift. But successful people have clarity about what they want, why they want it, and what actions will take them there. This clarity eliminates confusion and strengthens discipline. When you know exactly what matters, it becomes easier to resist distractions and stay committed. Discipline also requires understanding the difference between what is urgent and what is important.
Many individuals spend their days reacting to urgent tasks, messages, interruptions, small problems, while neglecting important tasks that contribute to long-term growth. Successful people prioritize importance over urgency. They discipline their time by planning their day around meaningful actions rather than reacting to every demand. They focus on what moves them closer to their goals, not what others demand of them.
Another key aspect of discipline is consistency. Most people can be disciplined for a day or a week, especially when motivation is high. But long-term success requires sustained effort. Successful individuals remain consistent even when motivation fades, because they understand that motivation is temporary, but discipline is reliable. They build habits that support their goals, reframing discipline not as a burden, but as a lifestyle. Consistency compounds. Even small efforts, performed regularly, become powerful over time. Discipline also involves the ability to delay gratification. The human mind naturally prefers immediate comfort, rest over effort, pleasure over progress, ease over challenge. But successful individuals train themselves to prioritize long-term rewards over short-term comfort. They understand that every temptation has a cost. Choosing comfort today may cost progress tomorrow. Discipline is the ability to choose the future over the present. It is the quiet strength that whispers, "Do what you should, not what you want right now." This ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term achievement. Another powerful component of discipline is structure. Highly successful people do not rely on willpower alone. They design environments that support discipline. They create routines, systems, and schedules that reduce the mental effort required to stay on track. For example, they might prepare for the next day the night before, set specific times for deep work, or remove distractions from their workspace. By structuring their environment, they make discipline easier and more automatic. They understand that the environment influences behavior more than willpower ever could. A major obstacle to discipline is emotional resistance. Many people avoid important tasks because they feel tired, anxious, bored, or overwhelmed. They let emotions dictate their actions. But successful individuals separate emotion from commitment. They do not wait to feel like it before acting. They take action regardless of emotion, trusting that the feeling will follow the behavior. This emotional maturity allows them to remain productive even on difficult days. They treat discipline as a decision, not a feeling. Another key aspect of discipline is consistency. Most people can be disciplined for a day or a week, especially when motivation is high. But long-term success requires sustained effort. Successful individuals remain consistent even when motivation fades because they understand that motivation is temporary, but discipline is reliable. They build habits that support their goals, reframing discipline not as a burden, but as a lifestyle. Consistency compounds. Even small efforts, performed regularly, become powerful over time. Discipline also involves the ability to delay gratification. The human mind naturally prefers immediate comfort, rest over effort, pleasure over progress, ease over challenge. But successful individuals train themselves to prioritize long-term rewards over short-term comfort. They understand that every temptation has a cost. Choosing comfort today may cost progress tomorrow. Discipline is the ability to choose the future over the present. It is the quiet strength that whispers, "Do what you should, not what you want right now." This ability to delay gratification is one of the strongest predictors of long-term achievement. Another powerful component of discipline is structure. Highly successful people do not rely on willpower alone. They design environments that support discipline. They create routines, systems, and schedules that reduce the mental effort required to stay on track. For example, they might prepare for the next day the night before, set specific times for deep work, or remove distractions from their workspace. By structuring their environment, they make discipline easier and more automatic. They understand that the environment influences behavior more than willpower ever could.
A major obstacle to discipline is emotional resistance. Many people avoid important tasks because they feel tired, anxious, bored, or overwhelmed. They let emotions dictate their actions. But successful individuals separate emotion from commitment. They do not wait to feel like it before acting. They take action regardless of emotion, trusting that the feeling will follow the behavior. This emotional maturity allows them to remain productive even on difficult days. They treat discipline as a decision, not a feeling.
Discipline also requires boundaries. Highly successful people set clear boundaries around their time, energy, and commitments. They protect their mornings or evenings for meaningful work. They limit time with people who drain their energy. They say no to distractions, temptations, and unnecessary obligations. These boundaries are not selfish. They are essential for growth. Without boundaries, discipline collapses. With boundaries, discipline thrives. A crucial part of discipline is self-regulation. This includes managing impulses, controlling reactions, and staying aligned with long-term goals. Many people are controlled by their impulses. They act based on emotion, habit, or desire. Successful individuals develop the ability to pause before reacting. This moment of pause creates space for intention. It allows them to choose the disciplined response rather than the impulsive one. Self-regulation is the foundation of intentional behavior. Another dimension of discipline is recovery. Discipline is not about working endlessly without rest. It is about balancing effort with renewal. Successful individuals know that rest, sleep, breaks, and recovery are essential for long-term performance. Discipline is about sustainability, not burnout. By caring for their physical and mental health, they strengthen their ability to persist consistently. True discipline includes knowing when to push and when to replenish. But perhaps the most important element of personal discipline is identity. People who see themselves as disciplined naturally act in disciplined ways. This internal identity shapes behavior effortlessly. Highly successful people adopt the identity of someone who follows through, someone who acts with purpose, someone who stays consistent. Their thought habit is not, "I hope I become disciplined," but "I am a disciplined person." Over time, their behavior aligns with this belief. Identity influences actions, and repeated action strengthens identity.
Conclusion: the mind that shapes your future. Throughout this book, we explored the inner world of highly successful people. Not their strategies alone, not their techniques or shortcuts, but the thought habits that quietly form the foundation of their lives. Success, as you have seen, is not primarily an external achievement. It is an internal alignment. It begins in the mind long before it becomes visible in reality. The world often celebrates the outcome, the rewards, the fame, the results. But the true power lies in the thinking that produces those results. Thought habits shape actions. Actions shape routines, and routines shape destiny. What separates successful individuals from others is not a secret formula or a rare talent. It is the consistent practice of empowering thoughts. They understand themselves deeply through self-awareness. They think in possibilities rather than limitations. They adopt long-term visions instead of short-term impulses. They commit to growth, maintain focus, stay resilient, take proactive action, speak to themselves constructively, and discipline their choices. These habits of thought do not appear overnight. They are built through intention, repetition, and patience. But once established, they become a mental framework that supports success in every area of life. The truth is this: your mind is your greatest asset. Your thoughts are not random. They are powerful tools that can either build your future or limit it. Every chapter of this book was designed to help you understand that the future you desire is already within you, waiting to be activated by the thoughts you choose daily. You have the ability to rewire your thinking, to reshape your patterns, and to create a mindset that supports your highest goals.
Now, the journey shifts from understanding to application. Knowledge alone is not transformation. You must practice the thought habits you have learned. You must become intentional with your inner dialogue, your focus, your discipline, your resilience, and your perspective. Each day presents an opportunity to strengthen these habits. Each decision, each challenge, each moment of doubt is a chance to reinforce the mindset of success.
Remember, you will not think perfectly every day. Successful people don't either, but they correct themselves quickly. They return to their habits. They choose thoughts that align with their vision. Over time, these small mental adjustments build extraordinary strength. Success is not a dramatic change. Success is the gradual mastery of your mind. As you move forward, carry with you the belief that you are capable of growth, change, discipline, and resilience. Carry with you the understanding that challenges are not barriers, but teachers. Carry with you the vision of your future self, a person shaped not by limitations, but by possibilities. And most importantly, carry with you the commitment to practice the thought habits that lead to success. The world changes when your thinking changes. Your life transforms when your mindset grows. And your future arrives the moment your thoughts begin to support it. You have everything within you to become the person you are meant to be. Let your thoughts lead you there. One day, one choice, one habit at a time. Your mind is the beginning of your success. And now, the journey truly begins.